Hello, everyone. Jenny Ponzuric here. And today I am honored to introduce a remarkable guest, Kelly Mobeck, whose journey from mortgage banking to coaching has made a lasting impact on personal development. With a decade as a leadership director for a training program, she later founded Kelly J. Mobeck Coaching and Training, specializing in impactful one on one coaching and tailored leadership programs. But Kelly's impact extends far beyond. Her top ranked podcast, Let's Be Honest Before We Start Pretending, sits in the top 5% globally, sparking honest conversations and inspiring journeys of self discovery. And it doesn't stop there. Kelly fosters transformative growth through intimate cohorts in her Lift programs, empowers women through her Lift Her community, and equips individuals to take the lead in their lives with her Take the Lead in Your Life workshops. Join me in welcoming Kelly Mobeck, an influential leader, founder of Kelly J. Mobeck Coaching and Training, and host of a podcast inspiring us all to take the lead in our lives. It is a pleasure to have you here, Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I am thrilled to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we are kicking off with our first question, which is, what is your favorite TV show you are watching right now? Everyone's always wondering, what should we be watching? So what are you watching right now?
So I'm watching a show that is not actually it's like I'm watching the reruns of it, if
Yeah.
you will, and I'm obsessed with it. It's called Special Forces. I guess it would be in the category of reality adventure competition
Mhm.
show, but I love it because it embodies everything about taking the lead, stretching outside your comfort zone. You better know why you're there and what you want to create. And it is intense and I am here for it. It's so good. It's so good.
Because you've actually talked about it on your podcast,
I
right?
did. I did. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. It is crazy because it's like real. Well, it's like, I mean, of course it's real people, but like it's these four guys that are in different, they're from different branches of the military, but they're special forces. They come together and it's this selection process that you have to go through. And then they have like, it could be a reality star, it could be a celebrity, it could be an Olympian, it could be an athlete, right? These people that come together and they've got to go through the selection process, and it's crazy intense. And I love it. I love it so much. I love it. I'm blown away with the perseverance and resilience of these people. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's so
Awesome,
good.
awesome.
Watch it.
Well, not everyone in our audience may be familiar with coaches, as many are school psychologists. How do you describe to others what you do as a coach and how you provide value through your work?
Such a great question. Coaching is all about forward movement. So it's distinct from, say, therapy or counseling. Not that you don't move forward in those. This is coaching is not therapy and it's not counseling. But it is really about working through the things that stop us or where we're stuck. It's about creating new tools and practices where we can be more effective. We're going to stretch outside our comfort zone. Like you literally want to be working with someone where you're like, oh my gosh, like I might vomit right now because I'm so uncomfortable. That's a good thing, you're growing. It's about accountability. We explore and reframe thoughts and feelings and beliefs, and we expand our worldview. There's learning, there's growth, there's results. And I think it's important that you are working with someone who is actually trained as a coach because, coaching can be used very loosely. And the thing that's really important is there's a lot of like, I know a lot of great coaches, right? And sometimes I'll run into people that say they're a coach and I'm always curious, like, hey, where did you go? Where did you go to school for coaching? Where did you get trained? This and that. Oh no, I have experience, so I can coach. That's called mentoring. It's called mentoring because There truly is specific skill sets that are very important as a coach. We are working with human beings. We take that very, very seriously and honor that. And so we're really trained to access your answers in many different ways versus us telling you what to do. And I think that's important because I think you go farther when it's your answers and it's so much more empowering for you. So that's that's coaching.
Well, and how long have you been a coach? And at what point in your journey did you become really interested in or kind of focused on the leadership aspect of, I mean, you love leadership coaching.
I am going into my 21st year of coaching. And I will tell you that it was pretty much year number 1 when I began to focus on leadership coaching. I helped a training company build their leadership program. And so I just like jumped from coach training right into building a leadership program. And I was in it to win it. Like I love it. And here's the thing, my truth is I've always been interested in leaders and leadership, and it's literally been an aspect of my life since I can remember in some capacity. I have a philosophy that we are all leaders in our life. So it's not necessarily like leadership in a hierarchical way. As for that, I believe that we are leaders in our own life, and that it's really about moving through circumstances versus allowing them to drive us. And so that's where I became really interested in leadership because you can expand it in all parts of your life, whether it's personal, professional, relationships, all the things.
Well, I'm curious because, as you mentioned, there's lots of different coaches that exist out there. Some people
Oh yeah.
who've gone through certification, some people who haven't. But there's also different categories, right? There's life coaching, there's health coaching. So, how is leadership coaching different than other types of coaching?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you said that. I was thinking, there are a ton of different niches, right?
I don't know how
However.
to say that word either.
Yeah, one of those, right? And so, I mean, there's, like you said, there's health coaching, relationship, business coaching, executive coaching, trauma coaching. There's a lot. And I think what happens is you have a basic that gives you the basics of being a coach, and then it's moving into like, where are you specializing? And the interesting thing about leadership coaching is really it's at the core of any of that coaching. Truly, it's at the core of any of that coaching. It can be used in any type of coaching because it is about leading, right? So oftentimes I will say that a coach is a leader and a leader is a coach, right? So we lead people and we manage processes. So that's a whole other that could be a whole other episode. What I would say is when I think about the principles of leadership, they're very similar to coaching principles, at least in the way I was trained. It is about forward movement. It is about being in ownership for your life and the roles that you play in it. Okay. So whether it is as a parent, whether it is in your profession, as a friend, right? I mean, any of the roles that you play in your life, it's about being in ownership for them. I think it's such a key distinction of leadership. And it's also about being willing to jump in the middle of something and create a change. True story. One of my favorite books talks about leading from any chair. I'll probably talk about that at some point here. But it's leading from any chair. And I just believe that that is what leaders do is they're willing to jump in the middle. They're willing to shake it up. They're willing to create change. And that's really what our focus is. It's about impact. And it's also focused not only on yourself, but others. That's a really key distinction. And when you do that, possibilities and impact are endless, endless when we're being leaders.
You kind of mentioned kind of your passion, obviously, which is coming across your passion about this topic of leadership. But why is it so important to you?
For me, there's no other option. There's no other option. Like, I can't imagine not living without leadership principles, without being in ownership for my life. I really believe that we all can take the lead in our lives, no matter what our circumstances are. True story. We live in a world where circumstances become so bright and vivid and significant. And I just for me think that we all have that possibility to be able to break through them, really and truly, to be able to break through. I am a big fan of having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, which is very, very much about being a leader. And the thing that I really want to say here is that when we do this, and we will create more working relationships, we will have more fulfillment in our life and more joy. So I'm here for that. I want people to have exactly what they say they want. It will never look the way they think it's going to look on the journey to getting it, but I believe it's possible. And so for me, it's a non-negotiable. There's no other option. I literally live this way, not perfectly, okay, but I believe it, right? I absolutely believe it.
Well, for school psychologists who might want to learn more about this topic of leadership coaching, what are some actionable steps that they can take?
Oh, so many. There are so many, but you know what? I have a podcast. It's called Let's Be Honest Before We Start Pretending. Start there. Start there. Because it really I go through all of it all the way through. I think are at like 186 episodes right now. So there's a lot of information free. Start there. It's about taking the lead in your life versus allowing circumstance to drive you, and it's really about creating impact. I will tell you, I get asked this all the time. What is your favorite book? I'm going to tell you right now, The Art of Possibility. So you heard me talk about leading from any chair. They talk about that. It's The Art of Possibility by Ben and Rosamund Zander. It is brilliant, brilliant. There's another place to start. And you know what? You can go to my website, get on my mailing list. I have a monthly newsletter about taking the lead that will give you so many resources and references. And then I would love to share one of my favorite authors that's big in leadership is Simon Sinek. He's great, right? He's written Start with Why, which is about purpose, and then so much more. But there's so much information there's so much information out there. Why I love Simon Sinek is because he believes, we talk about in the workplace your soft skills and your hard skills. And is that what he call it? Hard skills, is that right? Hard skills.
Sounds
Is
good.
that okay? So they always say soft skills. I'm air quoting, they say soft skills are like, learning leadership, learning communication, learning all that. And your hard skills is the education or the training that you came in with, right? He reverses that. He reverses that. He says the hard skills and the skills that are going to really move you through is taking what you've learned, your education, your training, but really learning how to be a leader. Ah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And I know, like I mentioned, obviously you just mentioned your podcast, you've got one-on-one coaching, you provide different webinars throughout the year. And so all of that people would get to know about on your newsletter, correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you sign up, you can get a weekly email. No, I'm sorry. It's a biweekly email twice a month about what's coming up on the podcast. And once a month, I do have a newsletter there's some fun stories, there's references, and you get to hear about everything that's coming. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. Well, I know you actually are very familiar with the role of a school psychologist. So, if you had to give some advice or tips or strategies, whatever the word you'd like to use, to someone maybe early in their career, like a first year school psychologist, on the topic of leadership, what advice would you give?
Oh, God, that's a great question. Here's what I want you all to know. And I love school psychologists, by the way. I love them. I think the work that you're doing is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important. I know you know that. I want to affirm that, right? And so I want you to remember like you already have the competence. You have gone to school, you have the education, you have the competence, and you've worked hard on that. So challenge yourself to be confident in who you are and the impact that you have as a school psychologist. And a lot of times we make up that we've got to have all these competencies like, okay, now I finished my education. I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually work, right? In a district or at a school or wherever I'm going to be. suddenly we take ourselves back in any role. This could be with any job, but we take ourselves back to, I don't know anything. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So be confident in that. And confidence, you can choose that moment to moment to moment. You'll still be nervous. That's okay. You can still be nervous and be confident at the same time. Take action anyway. And remember, you are resourceful. You're not alone. So ask questions, right? And be sure that you add time for you in your day and stay consistent with that, because your well being matters and is important as you are taking on this new career and really making an impact. So put yourself first.
Well, and if they're wondering maybe one of your podcast episodes to listen to first, I know you have one specifically on this topic of confidence and competence, and like
Yes.
which one do you need to have? Which one, kind of chicken or egg, which one comes first? And I know talking with a lot of people who are new or newer to the field, we think we walk out of grad school with all this, and we do, amazing knowledge, but then you quickly realize there's so much more to
Sure.
know. And
Yeah.
so I think sometimes it's typical that we would lose some confidence along the way
Mhm.
because we realize I don't know everything about this and I don't know everything about this and so forth. So I would encourage people to go back. I'm not assuming either one of us knows what that number is off the top of our head, but we can definitely put something in our show notes about
Yeah.
the episode of that one, because I remember that one when I was listening to your podcast. That one was really helpful for me.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. I'll find that. I'm going to write that down. Actually, I will find that because it might even be in season one. I don't know. I don't
I
remember.
I think it was one of your earlier ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get that for you. Yeah.
Well, as we're finishing up here, this podcast is called The Prepared School Psychologist. So when you think of that term prepared, what do you do to help yourself feel more prepared in your role?
Oh gosh, such a good question. So I am very intentional with my day, my week, my month, and my year. I start out with that. I'm very, very intentional about it. And I wasn't always. It's probably why I'm going to bring that up. I used to just be like, we're just going to see how we roll. Right. And that didn't work so well. So it's being very intentional. I literally have a day of the week that has me look ahead and set a schedule that includes my well being first, and otherwise I promise you I'll roll by it. Like, I love my job so much, and I work really hard, and it could be really easy to just roll through that. But, well-being in any role that we're playing is super important. So I schedule that in first. I ask for help. Holy moly, I ask for help. That used to be something that was really challenging for me, but I ask for help now all the time. I delegate, where I can and things like that. I stay organized. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny's helped me with staying organized. If you guys need to know that, she's brilliant. I stay organized. I have tools that I use, practices that I use to stay organized. I do like-minded tasks with like-minded tasks. That's just, one of them. I have a start and a stop time in my day so that I don't miss my morning routine and my wind down routine. And here's the most important thing to staying prepared for me, and I trust this will help you. I set and keep my boundaries. I set and keep my boundaries because, again, I'm someone who I love to help. And so I could go on and on with that. But you know what? If I don't set and keep my own boundaries, and pour into myself in being prepared in the work that I'm up to, it can make for a cranky Kelly. So, I could go on and on about it, but those are the main components that I've developed through the years of looking at what was working in my life and what wasn't working. So I think that we don't always think of these things in being prepared, which, is something that I think is really important.
I love how you talked about the boundaries and gave a great example of one of there's a start time and an end time.
Yeah.
Because whether you're in school psychology, you're a coach, creating your own business, whatever path that you're on, it's very easy to spend a lot of our time and focus on that. And I know that there's different seasons in our world and in our fields that we might have to expand those work hours a little bit more or shrink them when we can. But I know a lot of times when I talk with school psychologists about the idea about boundaries, a lot of times they're curious about like what would be some examples of them. So thank you for sharing some examples there with a start time and end time. Is there any other one off the top of your head that you think has been most helpful for you in feeling prepared?
Um, I also, yeah, yes, like I said, I could go on and on. Something that's really important, and I just don't pass go without this, is really setting my purpose and outcome for anything. So an outcome is something that I want, right? So like if I'm looking at my day, what's the outcome of this day? Who am I going to be with in this day? Right. And I'll go through it and think about it that way. And then I visit my purpose. Why? Like, why am I with? I did it today before we were recording our podcast. Like, what is the purpose and outcome for being a guest on the Prepared School Psychologist? And it may sound silly to some people, but it works because it's grounding. It grounds me. If I get a little off kilter, which can happen, right? The curveballs come in. We are like, "Rah, what's happening?" I go right back to, I call it P&O, why and what. And it centers me, it grounds me, and then I can keep going. So you can use that in a lot of ways.
And I will just share that I have used that as a school psychologist. I remember when I first learned that from you, Kelly. Um, I'm someone who still to this day can get very nervous about different aspects of the school psychology world. And sometimes there might be a parent that I have to talk to, or a teacher, or an admin that I'm like, I don't know how this conversation's gonna go,
Yeah.
whether it's walking into a phone call or a one-to-one meeting. And there
Yeah.
are definitely times that I have just at the top of whatever paper I have, like, what is the purpose of this conversation and what is the outcome that I'm hoping for here? And that's really grounded me to just pick up the phone and have this conversation.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's reminding me there's a third component to this, what we're talking about, Jenny. I call it pop it. So whatever the it is, like what you're saying, Jenny, I'm going to go talk with a parent. I might feel a little bit nervous, right? But let me get really clear on my purpose and my outcome, why and what. And then your process could be, which I know you use this, like what are the pieces that we're going to go through here in this conversation, so that you don't have to worry about like, am I going to remember everything? You have it right in front of you. And as a matter of fact, it's a tool on my website, kellyjmobeck.com. That is a tool that is a free resource, by the way, to all of you. And if you ever have any questions about it, I guarantee you I've got podcast episodes on
I
it.
know you do. Yes.
It is, and you can just ask me and I'll find it for you. But like it is probably one of my favorite. No, let me be honest before I start pretending. It's my favorite tool. It really is. I don't pass go without it. So I think that's one way to absolutely be prepared.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time together, your time today, Kelly, and hanging out with us and sharing your knowledge about this amazing topic of leadership coaching with everyone. We will definitely share in our show notes where you can get a hold of Kelly, her website, how to get onto that newsletter, and the different podcast episodes that we've been referencing, as well as your favorite book, The Art of Possibilities. So thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am so excited about this podcast and so excited about all the great work that you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll see everyone next time.